Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home. Welcome back, Four Visions family. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Four Visions podcast. We're so excited to bring you a very special conversation today. I'm honored and thrilled to be joined by Ayla Nereo. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you feeling today?
Feel good. Yeah, very pregnant. And just feeling really excited for this conversation and this beautiful day.
Beautiful. Well, your music has touched me and so many of our listeners, and it just feels really beautiful to have you on this show. And we really touch on so many different threads of walking the spiritual path within the context of these conversations. And music and the healing power of music and sound is an elemental part of the themes that we often touch on in this podcast. So I'm really excited to just receive your medicine today and jump into a beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
So let's start by, I'm sure many people are very familiar with your work, but maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of an introduction to your journey and the medicine that you hold and your service and commitment in this life.
Yeah, wow. Well, my journey, I would say, began with listening, with being blessed to be raised by parents that really supported my creativity in so many ways. They also happen to have really good musical taste. So I was raised in really good music and a large variety of music, like more American, the folk music of Bob Dylan and Neil Young, and as well as a lot of classical music, because I loved classical music. I loved film scores. So I really loved the cinematic sounds as well. And I think all of that imprinted on me really young. And I never liked taking music lessons. I always wanted to learn by ear and just figure it out. And so I did a lot of that growing up. And I had forgotten because I had no intention of being a musician. And when I was young, I actually had a fear of singing. And so I didn't sing really. It was more composing on the piano. And my older half-brother and my younger brother both went on to be musicians. And I was sort of like, I'll be a film director or I'll be something else. And music really re-emerged in my life. I've also been a dancer my whole life. So that's been a primary art form. And I did that through college. And then in the last year of college, I had been learning guitar and songs started coming through and words. And I was listening to Bob Dylan a lot and really being inspired lyrically, like the power of words to paint a picture, to take us somewhere, to really evoke emotion. And these songs started coming through and I had to sing them because no one else was going to sing them. And so it was terrifying. And slowly, and thanks so much to a lot of the people in my life in the, hippie co-op I lived in on campus and different friends, they were just asking me to sing over and over. Like, will you share that one song that you shared with us? Will you share at this event? Will you share at this dinner? So it was like a turtle coming out of her shell. And it took a while. It was a long journey then of getting comfortable. And every step of the way taught me something different that then, the tools emerged through the challenge or the learning. And so it was a long journey. of getting on stage over and over again and hitting even points. I remember a couple years in of really questioning if I was meant to be a performer because it was so uncomfortable. It was like the nervousness knots were so intense before a show. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm meant to just create music and not get on stage. But there was a longing. And I always feel that when there's that combination of fear and longing, it's like an arrow that's pointing us directly where we need to go. And so that longing wouldn't go away. And that feeling of seeing someone else on stage and like wishing I was there. And so I just kept doing it. And there was one tour in particular that I did, my first solo tour, because I did some music early on as a band with my brother, which was so fun. But then when I really stepped into my solo exploration and journey, inwardly and externally taking touring solo, it was a different process because it was then like there's no one else on stage. I'm responsible for what's happening here.
Right.
And I started learning a lot about vibration. I started learning a lot about my emotional frequency and how that would be the whole difference of where a show went. And whether, if I was nervous and self-conscious, then it would be a, okay show, or maybe it'd be kind of like, or at worst, I would have an existential crisis afterwards. We're like, what am I doing? But then when I could tap into my gratitude for having a voice, just for being able to sing, for the fact that these songs have come through and now I'm being given an opportunity, and even if it was a small crowd, turning it into, wow, I get to sing with myself right now. It's not even about everyone. These magical things would happen when I would be in that frequency. The room would fill up, the energy would explode, people would be singing along, things that you can't actually create through will. It's vibrational. And so I learned a lot about frequency and vibration through that process that really, it's been everything for touring, because it's really changed the whole experience for me, feeling comfortable having a voice and getting up in front of people and sharing it. And also connecting to the deeper meaning, the deeper purpose, the prayer behind it all.
Right. When it becomes a prayer formance.
Yeah.
And you're holding and stewarding that prayer and holding that container in that way.
Yeah.
Did you have to learn how to expand your energy to be able to hold that container?
I think that, I don't know if I would phrase it that way. I think, yes, I did learn how to expand my energy to hold that container, but it wasn't like I set out to learn that necessarily. It was more like you have to learn how to do that when you keep showing up in those spaces. And the more consciousness gets brought to it, maybe the faster the learning is. But it just is an effect of, I think, putting ourselves in that place over and over again. There's things you can only learn, right, through being in front of people. You can only learn by being in front of people over and over and over again, as terrifying as it might be. And so, I think I learned a lot about energetic boundaries. I learned a lot about, at first, I think it was a lot about maintaining my own presence with the songs and maintaining my own connection with my prayer. And now it's that combined with actually quite a lot of presence with the audience. I think early on I was a little like, I can maintain my energy and the current if I'm more tuned in here. And now it's very much actually about everyone, because it's almost another layer of getting out of our own way. Like the prayer helps us get out of our own way. But then when I'm really deeply in the prayer, what I notice is that I'm so out of the way that I'm really interested in how everyone's experiencing it. It's actually all about their experience. And I'm there as a a vessel for what amazing experience can happen for everyone that's gathered there. And so that's brought in a whole new flavor of joy to performing over the last, I'd say, like year and a half. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yes, because you're a conduit for everyone to have their own unique experience with the music through that space. And from that place, it really does become like this sacred moment, this ceremonial union and connection through sound. And each person experiences it in a unique way, receive the medicine that they need in their own way for whatever they're needing at that moment. And it really is this very intimate experience, and to really actualize your power as a performer and your medicine and bring it forth, there does need to be that interaction, that intimacy, and I'm sure finding that balance between honoring your own energy and being able to support and protect your own channel with the music and how it's coming through, and then also engaging and having that intimate connection with who's listening and they're supporting that experience. It's this fine balance between the two.
Yeah. And just to speak it, I'm using the word performance, but this is for any interaction. Like, it's for that dance of, we're on a stage in a conversation. I'm on a stage right now, and then you're on a stage, and it's not really a stage, but it's like that opportunity in any moment, I think, to be tuned into the channel and that very intimate experience, but simultaneously tuned into like what's needed here. And can I be a channel not just for the personality, but something greater?
Yeah, for sure. My background is in ceremonial work, and how you're sharing about the performance, I'm seeing just so many correlations and, weavings there, because I'm sure it's happened where you get on stage and you tune into the energy of the group, and there's like a certain song that needs to come through, or something needs to be said to preface and really welcome a different song or energy into the space. So it's like really that listening that you started with, and being able to come to the stage with this level of peace and quiet, to be able to then attune and create this space that's needed and whatever is being asked of through that particular moment in time.
Yes.
I love that.
So much listening.
What would you say to someone who has music or a message or something that they feel needs to get out to the greater world, and they want to be able to bring their message and their medicine, but the idea of getting up in front of so many people is daunting? How would you recommend approaching that process?
It was like my other joy. Is helping people do this, because it's huge. It's like I think it touches on really, really deep parts of ourselves. It's not just getting on stage; it's also being seen, for who we are, and sharing our voice, which is our creative power. And all the stuff comes up like, am I good enough? Am I too much? Will people listen? It's like a very deep biological, tribal longing to be accepted and protected and included and not discarded, by the tribe. And so all of that comes up, like fear of being cast out, fear of being judged. And what I would say is, what I share in my containers is the only way through is through, and so we can only learn that through walking through that gate. I think of them as gates. And there's a gate in front of you, and maybe it's an invitation to sing at an open mic. Maybe it's an invitation to speak in front of a yoga class, like whatever the the invitation is or the opportunity. And it's a gate, and it's terrifying. And once you actually walk through that gate, you won't have that particular flavor of fear ever again. It's like you've gone through. And that's really it. That can be, I think, fortifying to the process. There will be another gate, but it will be, spiraling up. Yeah, and I think also remembering that we are rippling constantly into this fabric of interconnectedness. And so when one of us chooses to be seen and actually walk through that gate in our fear, not discarding our fear, but fully bringing, I'm in fear, and even being honest in that moment. Like, I'm really nervous right now and I'm going to sing you all a song. I think the more authentic we can be, it's really refreshing to everyone. And we get to remember that when we walk through that and we're really authentic about it, that it gives everyone permission to be more authentic, to be seen, to bravely walk through whatever gate is in front of them. And so in a way, we get to do it for others and not just for ourselves. And that I find to be very fortifying as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Those are really beautiful pieces to remember in this process of embodiment and empowerment. And yeah, this authenticity, it's like, it's never ending. We're always being reminded how it's really the answer, and it makes everything so much easier too. And it also ties in with this element of lightheartedness too, because I feel like the authenticity gives us permission to approach life from this, take away some of the heaviness, that we find ourselves weighed down by so often when it comes to big decisions or putting ourselves out there, whatever it is that we're working with. Somehow we, in the human experience, we allow ourselves to get so clouded by this heaviness, and to remember, to take things a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit sweeter too. I think that that's important reminder for all of us, and in the journey. And I feel like your music really does that. It inspires lightness. Like whenever I listen to your music, I feel like I'm just floating on a feather, and it really does invoke that sweetness of even innocence, or just lightness. And I'm curious if you feel like that is, a natural for you, if that lightness is something that just feels part of your design, part of your, medicine, or if it's something that you worked with.
Taking a quick break from today's conversation to share with you a short message. Let's talk about plant medicine integration. Integration work is the action taking and the grounding into the fibers of our beings, the ancestral and cosmic wisdom that the plants give us. It is the manifestation of every vision. When we do it well, it becomes the true ceremony, the ceremony of life. The 4 Visions Plant Medicine Integration Program was created to support you in learning how to cultivate the unique process of translating the healing and wisdom received from the plants into your daily life. Our personalized, self-paced learning platform was developed to suit each person's unique availability and commitment levels, with as much hands-on guidance and support or autonomy as you are needing and wanting. Our in-depth curriculum is comprised of a robust digital content series, live monthly workshops, private spiritual consultations, and community connection. Our faculty is made up of renowned spiritual teachers, indigenous wisdom keepers, and integration specialists, each with unique backgrounds and decades working with the plants. We created the curriculum we wish we had had years ago when beginning our plant medicine journeys. Some of the topics we cover throughout the program are immediate integration basics, cultivating your spiritual practice, building a plant allies toolkit, how to make spiritual payments, how to deepen your connection with plants, working with hape, sananga, and cacao as allies, the foundations of microdosing, the art of forgiveness and reconciliation, spiritual hygiene, and plant diets. If you feel called to cultivate your integration practice or are interested in nourishing your spiritual studies and deepening your relationship with plants through a one-of-a-kind transformational container, we welcome you to visit 4visionsintegration.com to learn more and sign up. And now back to today's show.
Yeah, the lightness. I mean, I would also bring in the word innocence, right? It's like this some people have used the word purity.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that I was pretty blessed to have an upbringing where that innocence got to stay intact for a very long time. I didn't go to public school until I was 13. So I went to a Waldorf kindergarten, and then in first grade, my mom didn't like the first grade teacher, so she was like, "Oh, they're young. I'll just homeschool or unschool," some people call it, not with a school system. And then at the end of that year, first grade, my mom asked if I wanted to go back to Waldorf school or if I wanted to stay homeschooling. And I was like, I want to keep doing this. And so we did it. My brother and I were homeschooled all through all of elementary and middle school. And I give that a lot of credit for the innocence staying intact, because we were really got to be very self-directed learners. So it was very empowering. And also didn't have all the stuff that comes with public school. And oh my gosh, I got to skip the drama of middle school. Like I didn't even realize until talking to friends later what I had kind of escaped there potentially, because I was so soft. I would have been it was hard enough going into high school, and so I feel like that was a big part of that natural, innate innocence and lightness that I think we all have as children. And it just got to be watered and flourish for many, many years. And so it's very close. It hangs out like right here. And and I feel it's definitely a strong thread in the music. It guides the music because it guides my frame. It's a very big part of me and my essence. And so the songs come from that place, and the lens that I look through the world with is from that place. And nature, I reference nature because it kind of is the frame for understanding human interactions and my own human experience. I see nature in our bodies. I see nature in our emotions, in our mind, and in everything. And so it's a very helpful way of the as within, so without gets to be translated into words through using nature as a way to explain the human experience and vice versa. And so I think with that, there can be a lightness, but also nature is intense. Nature is strong, but there's still an innocence. Even in a storm, there's an innocence. Even in like a wildfire, nature is not trying to cause harm. Nature is inherently in balance. And a wildfire is balancing something, and a flood is balancing something. And so there's almost like the innocence that is innate in nature, even in the strength and the fierceness and the, all of the destruction that is right next to the creation. I feel like because I look through the lens of nature so much, maybe that also is part of how that gets encoded as a lightness in a way. I don't know. I've never thought of it that way, but
I love that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I'm so happy you mentioned the elements of nature and how, there is that innate purity and intention of balance and harmony. And I think that for anyone who's wanting to come back to this place of innocence and balance, looking to nature can be an incredible refuge to find it once again. And I definitely want to get more into your relationship with nature and how it has informed your work and your music. But I do want to stay on this theme of the innocence and reclaiming this joy and the lightheartedness, because I think that with everything that is happening today in the world and in the collective consciousness, there is almost an underlying understanding that innocence isn't the whole picture, or by choosing to go into innocence and joy, we are neglecting to see the capacity and the fullness of all the pain and suffering. And I believe that recovering and reclaiming the joy and the innocence is how we sustain the collective consciousness through all of the pain that we are enduring, and that the joy and finding our joy again and living as joy as our guiding light and pillar is the steward that takes us through this time and shows us and will bring us to a new way of living and relating to one another. So many of us don't have the same relationship to innocence, in the sense that it wasn't preserved in the same way that yours was. And what an incredible blessing to have that direct connection so close to you as an adult. But for those who had our innocence ripped from us and taken from us so early, it can often feel really hard to reconnect with that place. I know for me, having a child and having a young son was that doorway into reclaiming that space again. And he's been such an incredible teacher for me, and learning, once again, relearning and remembering how to live from that place. But I'm curious and would love to hear how you might share and invite us to reconnect with that place, and what wisdom you might have to inspire us to not shy away from that place, but rather utilize it as a vehicle for our healing and our transformation and our place of inspiration as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel innocence, you hear that word and it can feel more like maybe has a connotation to some as like less powerful. And I actually feel innocence is incredibly powerful and incredibly alchemical. There's, through connecting to our own innocence, we become better stewards of innocence, which protects the whole planet. And so, and we also get to connect with, I think, the inner child in each person, including ones who are perpetrating pain and suffering. And then it changes the approach. It changes the perspective. It changes the action that might occur. Innocence is deeply feeling. So I would say, you look at a child and the emotions move through them so quickly. It's like 1 second they're crying fully because they just got hurt, even just emotionally, by another child that took something from them. And then a second later, they're like laughing. And it's just like letting it move, I think, is an aspect of innocence. It's like nature. It's like it moves and it's changing. And I think too, any way that we can connect with our inner child, like going back, and there's really powerful subconscious repatterning work that can also facilitate that, like EFT or NLP. There's so many. Also different medicine work can definitely do that. And intending to go back, having a prayer to go and really connect with our inner child it can be so simple. It can be actually just taking time in nature and just having that prayer. And I feel so much gets revealed through that. We get to really connect with the core frequencies of who we are as that inner innocence self. And I feel innocence also is connected very much to wonder and curiosity.
Yep.
So anytime we can bring more curiosity, that is a form of letting our innocence lead. I think the more we can slow down, I think innocence and wonder combined with that kind of innocent wonder quality is it's much needed right now, because everything's going so fast and faster, and we're so plugged into our screens, and we forget to look around and marvel, like, wow, this was woven. Like, how long did that take? And then you want to like look and see, like watch someone weave it, and you're like, then your mind gets completely blown, and I'm like, well, I wonder if I've never tried painting. I want to try painting, and we look at nature growing and we get really curious about things, and we start noticing the miracles that are all around us all the time. And I mean, even in our own body, there's so many miracles happening all the time. There's so many things that are happening that keep us alive every second and keep our brains moving and keep everything in harmony. And it's a miracle. Really amazing. I feel very connected to that. Having a human growing inside me.
Nothing more magical than that.
I'm like, this is an absolute miracle. This is the most wild, wondrous, incredible thing ever. And connecting to that connects me to my innocence.
Yeah.
It's actually been really beautiful to feel how recently I've noticed that my own innocence is coming up differently because there's a baby growing inside me. And I know that'll just continue when she's out.
Totally.
And so it's
because your innocence is now also protecting innocence.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the journey of motherhood and how our lens shifts in that way. And especially with your experience of your childhood, wanting to, I'm sure, give a version of that to your daughter. And so this energy of being a protector and safeguarding, right? And really creating that container for her to grow and live from that place. Wow, it's beautiful.
Totally. Yeah. And I for those who are listening, watching, like, I don't think, it's, if you have a child, it's right there. But it also, if you're an auntie or an uncle, or if you can just hang out with children, hanging out with children is a really beautiful way to remember our own innocence. And maybe one of the quicker pathways, so innocence asks us to slow down and to get out of the adult world. Really, and by adult world, I mean the serious, like doing, getting all the check boxes checked and making all this stuff happen. And it's not bad, but it's I've also noticed that when my innocence is closer, my curiosity, that a lot of that stuff actually flows differently. It's a lot more fun. And so it's not, we can think of it as like, oh, I'm getting slowed down by stopping to smell the roses. But actually, that rose is going to alight your senses, and it's going to open parts of you. And if you can stay in that while you walk down the street, then who knows what thought might drop through. And then from that thought, something might open, and it can actually make a more efficient path in a way. And so, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. And it's also this innocence is connected also to our creativity. And so, as you mentioned, tapping into whatever creative channel feels exciting to us is an incredible way to get into that flow. But so often we live from this place of, feeling like that's not for us, or feeling like we have too much to do. And actually, in this path of empowerment and sovereignty, innocence and coming back to this curious wonder is the portal. It's the doorway that leads us to a place of getting in touch with and empowering ourselves in a new and fuller way.
Yeah.
And so it's really this beautiful thing. Like we can't circumvent this practice of inner child, of finding joy, of finding lightness. And anyone who is an artist of their life, anyone who has tapped into this place of radiant joy and true living from this place of awe and wonder will tell you that that's where it's at, and no one wants to go through their life like in a box, full, like head down, continuing to just check off those check boxes. That's not what we came here to do. And so this place of coming back to this awe and wonder of being willing to fall or try something new, of being willing to come at life from this place of curiosity and willingness to grow too, because I think also in our adult lives, we often allow ourselves to be defined of who we are, and that's who we are for the rest of our lives. There's like a certain point where that really gets solidified for us. And so to really approach life from this place of, no, I'm not going to succumb to that. I'm going to always be growing and learning and evolving and willing to try new things. Like that's where the potency of life really is. It's in that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reminder, just all of the ways that we can, like you said, think that we're this way when we become an adult.
Yeah.
And the
I don't sing, I don't do that.
Yeah, we cut ourselves off, and children don't do that.
Right.
So it's a really good barometer to just measure, like, where am I on this, and to make sure that's a primary way of bringing curiosity into our life. And innocence is to say, like, I don't know who I am today. I'm always growing. And then to apply that to everyone around us, including like our most close relationships or our partner or our child. Be like, I don't know. I want to make sure that I don't think I know who you are, that I don't fall into that trap of thinking like you're a certain way and I'm going to expect that you're the same.
Yeah.
It's really...
And that's where the compassion that you were mentioning comes. Can you talk a little bit more about how that lens of innocence actually translates to greater compassion? Because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think I've been reflecting on this. We mentioned earlier, like the world events too, and just like life can feel heavy. And I think when we are, especially if we're empathic and compassionate people, we see pain and suffering happening in the world, and we feel it like it's ours, and it's so painful. And I think part of innocence is actually allowing ourselves to feel all of that.
Well, I feel like every time I'm able to, in my close relationships, and a conflict comes up, meet that person and see their inner child and see it from a place of innocence, the situation. And also take the situation a little bit more lighthearted. Like, this isn't the end of the world. And also just come with that place of loving, knowing that we're figuring it out and that we're growing and learning from it. There's so much to unlock when we approach a conflict from that place. And it's been really, really helpful to take on the eyes of that childlike innocence and curiosity, and not just jump to an assumption, even like, he did that because, or she did that because, but actually, be curious.
Yeah.
What caused you to do that,
Yeah.
And like, where did this come from? And really opening that space also for everyone involved to tap into that place of curiosity within our own selves. Like, where is this feeling coming from? Where is this, unworthiness coming from? And being willing to look at those parts of ourselves and embrace those parts of ourselves that might be a little uncomfortable or might not feel like so fun in the moment, but it's like also this place that invites us into a greater self-love and self-acceptance.
Yeah, and that's a good example of, I said earlier, like, innocence feels alchemical, like wonder and curiosity feel alchemical, and that's how they alchemize a moment like that, right? We're in conflict with our beloved or with a family member or whoever, and all of a sudden the curiosity comes in and it changes the whole conversation.
Totally.
And I think too, there's like a macro way that we can bring curiosity in to the world that allows us to also find new pathways of solution for things happening, which is stepping out into that wider lens of this great story that's being woven. And the idea that every part is telling part of the story. And how do we step out of, it can be really hard at times, because when we see things going on in our personal relationships or in the world at large that feel really painful, it can feel hard to not name it good or bad.
Yeah.
But I think when we can actually step out beyond good or bad and just look at almost like the symbolic layer of what's happening, like as though this is a dream
Yeah.
And what am I noticing in the dream? And then that brings that, I think that is a lens of innocence in a way. It's curious and it's filled with wonder. I would highly recommend trying out walking through your day as like really believing that you're walking through a dream. Everything gets quite magical very quickly. And you really notice the symbols and the alignments, and it creates a new pathway. Yeah, it creates new pathways of what do I want to do or take action in a certain way in a moment. Yeah, it unfolds a different way of us being in the story, and therefore weaving it differently, and therefore rippling it out differently.
Taking a short break from today's episode to share about an incredible product line that we absolutely love. It's called Clarea, which means clarity and illumination. Clarea was created from divine inspiration and guidance that our coherence of body, mind, and soul are born from inner clarity. These creations are alchemized with the intention to bring forth health and well-being to the totality of your temple to nourish a vital, thriving life. Holistically handcrafted with love and care for your well-being of mind, body, and soul. An offering that is life-giving, relevant, and aligned for all life and the future generations to come. Clarea is formulated from over 33 years of the founders' combined in-depth, dedicated study, research, application, and experience with holistic health, Ayurveda, herbalism, permaculture, detoxification methodology, and healing. Everything is 100% organic or wild-crafted, biodynamic, homegrown, vegan, botanical, pure, all ingredients of the purest, highest grade, sourced ethically and sustainably. Clarea is a full-circle sustainable project that aims to create as big as an impact for our Mother Earth and all life as possible. We are 100% aligned on every level with this beautiful company's mission, and for that reason, we felt called to share this incredible product line with you, our Four Visions family. 10% of all proceeds go directly to nonprofit organizations aimed at environmental regeneration and restorative efforts, specifically for water cleanup, protection and preservation of the waters, restoration of bee populations, protection of indigenous sacred lands, rights, and natural resources, reforestation, and endangered species and animal rights. Check out the link in the show notes and make sure to use the code FVFamily to snag some savings on your order. And now back to today's episode.
Well, I have been to a few of your workshops and concerts over the years, and I've also, heard you speak a little bit about the elements and how they inform your music, I'm sure, inform your path in your life. And I would love to get a little bit into, the elements of nature and nature as a whole too. We talk a lot about how to connect deeper with nature. And I love asking people the question, how can we deepen our relationship with nature? Because I feel like there lies the key to everything coming back into union with life itself. And so, yeah, I would just love to hear a little bit more about your relationship with the elements and anything else you feel called to share.
About 2 years ago now, I knew I was going to be creating an album, and I knew that this album was called Sovereign Kin and dealt with sovereignty and kinship, the marriage of those, and it started to come through that this might not be just one album. It might be a few. And then about pretty much exactly 2 years ago, it came through really clearly in a medicine ceremony, actually, with mushroom medicine. And it came through really clearly that this was going to be 4 albums. They were all called Sovereign Kin. Each one was centered around a different element, and that I was starting with fire. And I sort of sensed that I would be initiated through the elements through this process, but I really had no idea how what, the magnificent magnitude of what I was about to encounter through them. And so I very much welcomed that. And I was like, great, fire. I know that I have a song already called Fire, and it has a lot to do with Phoenix energy. So it's probably, going to be a lot of Phoenix. And I was almost like naively not even really processing like how big the Phoenix energy is. Like everything gets burned and the Phoenix comes from the ash. That's huge. And so within a month, my relationship of 10 years we were coming into conscious closing process. The land I thought I would live on forever, I was moving off of. I met my beloved. Everything was falling away and being reborn. And that whole next year, especially through my relationship with my beloved Isaac, we really got worked through fire in the earlier part of our relationship. Because now I see we needed to prepare ourselves for what our destiny is together. But it was a lot of like really having to be purified by fire. A lot of inner stuff that needed to be alchemized and transformed and transmuted. And so it was hard. Fire is intense and it moves quickly. And so it was a very fast year. And then when I released that album last fall, that's the book one of Sovereign Kin is The Spark. And when I released that, I entered the water initiation. And that started off really powerfully and strong and kind of intense and a lot of tears. And then moved into a lot of flow, a lot of like I realized really quickly that waters teaches us to trust and surrender and move with the current. And so as I started welcoming in water, my life started rippling differently. And within a couple months, actually, I think it was 2 or 3 months of the water initiation beginning, we were pregnant. And
Waters of life.
yeah, and so that was at first I was like, wait, I thought baby was coming in Earth album. But it all makes sense now. It's the waters of the womb, and it's been really powerful. So that's some of my more personal journey with the elements recently is
beautiful.
It's like, wow, this is so it's like the biggest steps of my life over and over and over again. So definitely initiation through the elements is for real. It's very deep and powerful. I also, I was talking about how my lens is through nature with the songs. And so it's been really beautiful to feel how different aspects of fire, like through those songs, like what songs actually want to be on this album. They're not all, I think I have 1 or 2 songs that maybe 3 on the album that actually talk about fire, but a lot of them have different qualities. Like there's one that I think of as being like the passion. Fire is passion. Fire is a slow burn. Fire is radiance, and so it's all these different aspects. And so the same with water right now, feeling into what songs are water and what songs hold trust and surrender and the frequencies of flow and the frequencies of the power of water to move rock, to carve, it's really powerful. And then I opened up I have an online membership. And so we actually work through the elements over the year. And so every 3 months we shift to a different element. And there's all invitations and writing prompts and different things for just bringing in a lens. It's really that. It's like bringing in the lens of water and how that is moving you and how you notice water in your day and in your process and in your creativity. And we're in Earth right now. And so there's a lot coming forward with Earth. And so that's been really beautiful too, to feel and to play with how bringing in the lens, just a lens like that of an element can really inform a lot in our life. And And through that, we walk differently, we create differently, we're attuned differently. So that they just have so much to, I mean, they give everything. We're made of the elements, right? So it's not like they're separate, but when we pay attention to what we're made of, then yeah, we get to create from a different place.
I love that you touched on this part of each element having so many different facets. Because I feel like there's so much there for us to open into the many different versions of ourselves and to get in touch with all the different nooks and crannies of who we are and what we're made of. And nature really does mirror that for us and shows us that we can be everything. We can have all the different sides to ourselves, that we're held in the fullest extent of who we are. And going into this deep journey with the elements, hearing a little bit about your own personal journey, it's really just such a beautiful reminder that nature is here showing us the way to come home to ourselves, to get to know ourselves deeper. And by creating that space and making this relating part of our daily practice, we find this place of grace, this place of really being part of something greater than us. And I feel that that's what we're all looking for. We're all on this search to belong, to be part of. And nature is here waiting for us, saying, I'm here. You're here with me. We've always been together. We've never been separate. And this is like the beautiful reminder that's there waiting for us anytime we open our eyes to it and go outside and connect with her and create space to really just dive deeper into the exploration. And it's really beautiful hearing about what you do in your membership too, because, I was going to ask, like, what are some ways we can connect with some of the different elements, but we'll definitely include that in the show notes, a link to your membership, because I feel like, the journal prompts and just the different exercises sound like such an incredible, wonderful tool for people, anyone who's looking to really investigate the many different layers and do a deeper exploration of the elements in that way.
Yeah, and just to speak it, the primary focus of the membership, we do work with the elements as a lens, but I would say the biggest focus is the voice.
Yeah,
and just really tuning ourselves as instruments, tuning ourselves as creative vessels. And it's currently in a membership form because I really feel we're in such a powerful time right now. And the more each of us can get out of our own way and really attune to what wants to come through us, and then really have tools for practicing letting sound through, letting words through, letting things through, so that when those big insights come through, when the creations want to move through, we're not afraid of them. It's actually like we are able to show up for what we're here for. And so I've opened this and I offer this from that place of just wanting to do what I can to support this moment, and everyone's vessel being as clear as possible. So there's a lot. It's been really fun because it's a pretty broad container that way. And so we're bringing in different guest speakers and there's an astrologer, and so it's the whole system approach of how do we tune into the cosmos, and how do we tune into the movements of the seasons, and how do we tune into ourselves, and how do we practice. And it's rich, it's fun.
I love it. Yeah, and it's like through the voice and activating the voice obviously is like the draw for people, but I can imagine that these practices of learning deeper, relating with the elements, it really becomes this practice of embodiment and a tool that we get to use in our lives. And oftentimes I think we have a hard time naming or recognizing the element that is present within us, and then learning how to find the balancing balm, the energy that's going to bring it back into equilibrium and harmony. So if there's anger, how do we invoke the water to bring that soothing energy to find resolution? And that's really, very much alchemical. That's very much, taking that sovereignty and ownership for our experience, and then working in union and relationship with the force of nature and the force of life to alchemize it and transform it into sweetness. And this element of like transforming bitterness into sweetness and finding even the medicine in the bitterness and not rushing away from it or trying to move through it, but allowing ourselves to sit in the ick and sit in the bitter or the dark and embrace that part too, I feel is just such an important part of our humanness.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that you brought in that aspect of the elements too. Like, how do we hang out with an element, even if it's hard or bitter or painful? And at the same time, what is the balancing element that can be a balm to that? Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like just naming for anyone listening, if anyone is looking to deepen their relationship with their emotional body, that the elements are a really natural way to be able to have a vocabulary and a tool set to navigate the emotional body. So if we're looking to regulate or have greater in tune with our emotions and work with them with more awareness, working with nature and the elements in this way can be incredibly supportive for that process. Well, Ayla, thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity to connect. I just have one more question or topic that I want to bring into this conversation as you're preparing for this beautiful initiation into motherhood. And just with everything that we spoke about, I feel like it's important to just inquire and bring into the conversation your beautiful being that is growing within you and your journey as thus far in your pregnancy. I'm very curious, how your musical journey has woven with this pregnancy, how your music, or how you're planning on incorporating music within the birth, and as well as, everything we spoke about today is really related to this element of childhood in a lot of ways. And like, I'm very curious now that you're preparing to welcome this new being, how you're planning on approaching this new chapter of your life and what you're holding, and as well as anything that you want to share in regards to stewarding the legacy that we are leaving for the future generations, because ultimately everything that we're doing here, everything that we're showing up for in this life, we're not doing it for us. And so really just tying it back into this prayer of what we are leaving for the future generations.
Yeah, it's a lot of pieces that I could share. This has been a really beautiful pregnancy. I've been very blessed to feel really good in my body. There's everyone has their shades of things with pregnancy. For me, it was getting sick a lot over and over with the whole immune system shift when you're pregnant. But overall, it's been very, very beautiful, and I've been really felt very just grateful to have the people around that are such holistic health experts. I've been hooked up with quite the supplements and just nourishing, and I've actually felt healthier than I felt in a very long time since becoming pregnant. And so because of that, my musical journey through this pregnancy has actually been more one of giving. I think I'm entering a phase right now of listening and receiving, and I think a lot of that will actually happen after baby has arrived. But it just so happened that I wanted to keep touring, and a lot of touring happened during the second trimester, and it was so joyful and it was so fun. And so it was really special to be on stage with being pregnant with the baby and the energy, and feel everyone's blessings as we went, and it was a very special experience. There's definitely a lot of songs that are wanting to come through, and more. I kind of feel them in the ethers. A lot of lullabies, probably. And I think in terms of what you said of that that way that we're changed, or that we get alchemized to become better stewards for the next generations. I really feel that very strongly. I feel like, for anyone who's been pregnant, I'm sure this will resonate. Anyone who's not, but it's I had already heard about the many internal initiations that happen through pregnancy and then becoming a mother or becoming parents. My first initiation was very strong, and it happened early on, like when we found out. And it was because we had talked about having a child, but the timing was different than we planned. And so it caught me off guard. And I really had to grapple with some inner parts of self that have been around for a long time that I actually thought I had resolved, that were kind of like the more maiden parts that just, I'm really comfortable doing life and choosing when I want to do stuff and having my morning routine and having it this way and just on a whim deciding to do this. And, it's very nice. And there can be a fear, I think, especially living in an individualistic culture. There's a very deep fear of losing our autonomy, losing our freedom. I'm also Aquarius, so I have that really strong in me too. And so it was a lot to grapple with that. And then I came to this place of, wow, thank goodness I'm so ready to mature in this way. I'm so ready for life to not be about me, because actually that's the prayer I get on stage with every show. That's the prayer that's behind every song. It's the big prayer that really is any moment that I'm showing up in any capacity. Even before this interview, we both took a moment. That was the prayer I said. It was like, make me an instrument, make me a vessel. It's an intention to get out of my own way. So what greater way to get out of your own way than to show up for others and a being? And so it's humbling to the ego. And I know I'm just at the beginning of that process. And it feels really beautiful and exciting. And I think as long as I keep that orientation, then I won't get stuck. I might have moments, but I won't get stuck in the missing of old freedoms. It'll be like, no, there's a new alchemy happening. And yeah, I'm interested to see my partner Isaac and I are both very committed to our creative path. He's very supportive and sees very clearly what I give in the world. And so, we are going to be totally new to being parents, but we're very committed to bringing our child with us as we go and tour, as we do our creative work, as we show up in how we're meant to. So, yeah, it feels like we're excited to see how that wants to weave and integrate, and and like let our journey as parents be part of maybe this new. I wouldn't say it's a new paradigm. It's actually probably a really old paradigm where parenting and children and elders and all of it is just part of life. And you're just doing life all together, and the baby's on your back, or the village is working together to help care for the children. And it's this more integrative model. And I think our modern world is very insulated, and people are like, it can be terrifying, in that model. And so we're excited to lean into this emerging old and new paradigm of really having community around us, and how do we support each other, and how do we support our work in the world and raise a child. And one doesn't have to hinder or pull from the other. They get to be harmonious and support and uplift each other. And it's all very experimental and new. And also there's a whole lot of trust. And I think it's like with any journey of life, it's like the more trust can get brought in, the less daunting it is. It's like whatever's going to happen is meant to happen for the highest and best. So I'm here for it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I'm holding that vision and prayer for you, and can't wait to see what you do and how you navigate the balance of your beautiful music and service to the world and motherhood. And sending you so many blessings and prayers for this incredible experience and initiation that you are about to go through. And may your birth be full of so much healing and beauty and magic and connection. And just welcoming in this beautiful being of light with so much love and prayers. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your beautiful medicine and light with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me and having us.
Thank you so much to everyone who's listened and tuned in. Sending you lots of love, gratitude.
On behalf of the Four Visions family, we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation and have gained seeds of wisdom that will nourish your spiritual path. If you have a moment, please leave us a review, as this helps us to reach more people. For more resources and information about the plant path, and for the highest quality spiritual tools and botanicals, please visit us at fourvisions.com. We are grateful for your support and look forward to continuing this journey with you all. Until next time.